Okay, so we are going to discuss the January 2021 paper. We'll start with the question number 1. The Venn diagram shows the events A, B, and C and their associated probabilities. Find the probability of B dash. Okay, this is quite simple. The probability of B dash means what? You add all the probabilities that doesn't belong to region B. Can I have what are those probabilities outside? So outside will be 0.1.
0.15, 0.12, 0.13.
So these three probabilities, 0.15, 0.12, 0.13. How much is the addition? 0. Quickly.
0.4.
0.4. Okay, part B, A union C. Probability A union C. So how do you get the probability of A union C? So probability of A union C, of course, children, now you could use the equation, the addition rule, probability A plus probability C minus probability A intersection C, or you could just use these two circles. A union C means you simply add all the probabilities of circle A and you add all the probabilities inside circle C. Anything is fine. Either use the addition rule or just use your common sense. I mean, A union C means take all the probabilities in circle A, take all the probabilities in circle C. So how much is it? 0.15, 0.20, 0.23, 0.12. Do you agree? How much is it?
0.7.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, probability A given B dash. So what's the probability of A given B dash? First you have to open the brackets here, conditional probability. So probability A intersection B dash divided by probability of B dash. So A intersection B dash. So let me put my regions because I normally like to put these regions, then it's easy for me to ask questions from you guys. A intersection B dash. So what are the regions that comes for A intersection B dash? What are the regions coming for circle A? 1 and 2. Circle A has regions 1 and 2. Do you agree? B dash. B dash means the regions that are outside of circle B. So what are the regions outside of circle B? 1, 5, 6. 1, 5, 6. So intersection means you have to take the common thing. Common thing is 1. So A intersection B dash is directly corresponding to region 1, which is 0.15. Okay. And that divided by probability of B dash is 156. Actually, we have found this in part A, which is 0.4. And the answer is
0.375.
0.375. Okay, 0.375. So that's the answer for the first question. Okay, so question number 2. The stem and leaf diagram below shows the ages in years of the residents in a care home. So it's a stem and leaf diagram, right? So they have given the key to read the stem and leaf diagram. So 4 and this 3 is an age of 43. Okay, so that means this ages of 43, 54, this is 62. The next one is 63, isn't it? This is not just 5 but 65. Okay, so you know how to read it. Find the median age of the residents. Okay, how do you find the median age? So altogether they say this is actually discrete data, right? So discrete data, what do we use? N divided by 2. And you remember that story, if it's a whole number and not a whole number? Median N divided by 2. Okay, how much is the N here? Add everything, how many data values are there? Add everything. The first column
31, right?
has 1. The second row has 1.
Yeah, 31.
You have to add all these. Within 31, right? The addition here, so there are 31 data points. So 31 you divide by 2 to the, how much is it? 31
15.5.
15.5.
15.5. So when you get a decimal answer, what was the rule that they gave in the textbook? The rule is if you get a decimal answer, you must round it up. If it's a whole number, you have to take the mid value of that whole number and the next whole number. So that's the theory in your S1 textbook. Okay. So 15.5, the rule in the book is you must round it up. So 16th figure. Count the 15th figure. So you know in a stem and leaf diagram, data is ordered or is it not? Is it in order or not in order? It's in order.
Ordered.
You can directly count children. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 one is not 4. What is this figure? 74.
24.
Please don't write it as 4. Please don't write it as 4, it should be 74, right? The answer median is 74. If you have a question, please ask. Median age is 74. Understood? Don't make careless mistakes. Find the interquartile range. Same story. Interquartile range. So we'll get Q3. Q3 is 3n divided by 4. So 3 times how much is n? We know there are 31 data points. 3n divided by 4. How much is it, Kudala?
23.25.
23.25. So when it's a decimal, what's the rule in the book? You must round it to the next up number. The up number. You go up. So 23.25 is the 24th
24th.
figure. Keep counting. So I think we counted here until the 16th one, right? The 74 here was 16, right? 16, then 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So what is the figure here? What is the figure here? 0.
80, right?
It is 80. So Q3 is 80. Similarly, get Q1. Q1 is n divided by 4, so n is 31. 31 divided by 4 is, quickly, 31 divided by 4 is
7.75.
7.75.
75.
So rounding it up, 8th figure. Keep counting, so 8th figure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How much is it? This 8 is 68.
68.
So Q1 is 68. So interquartile range, IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So Q3 is 80, Q1 is 68. So 80 minus 68 is 12, right?
28. Ah, yeah. Sorry, my bad.
12.
12.
Yeah. Okay. Then next one, children. I'll move on. Okay, I'll erase all this coloring. The next one, an outlier is defined as a value that is either more than 1.5 times interquartile range below the lower quartile, or more than 1.5 times interquartile range above the upper quartile. Determine any outlier. So let's get the two fences. You remember your data set. We checked the two boundary values, right? There are two fences, the upper fence and kind of like lower fence. So if your data values are inside the two fences, then it's in the data set. But if it's outside, if it is more than the upper fence and if it is lower than the lower fence, those are outliers. So let's get the fences. So part B, right? No, part C. So what's the upper fence? The upper boundary, Q3, upper quartile, plus, because more than, above the upper quartile, Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. Do you understand, children? So Q3 is how much? 80.
80 plus
5 times IQR is 12. How much is the answer?
98.
98. Right. So next one, get the lower fence. So these are our two boundary values. What is the lower fence you have here? So the first, I think below the lower quartile. Lower quartile means the first quartile. Below means you have to go, you have to subtract. Okay. 1.5 times.
1.5 into 12.
So IQ
50, right?
58.
Minus
12. How much for that?
50.
So now all you have to do is that take these two fences. 98 is the upper value, 58 is the lower value. Check whether there are any data points who are exceeding these, who is exceeding 98 or who is lower than, who is below 50. So do we have anything? 40,
43.
50. Okay, 54 no, 43 is below 50. What about the upper part, upper fence? 98. Anyone exceeding 98? No, 97.
No.
Okay, so that is fine. It looks fine. Do you guys get me? Okay, so determine any outliers in this data. So what's the outlier?
43.
So outlier. So your outlier is just 43. There's only one outlier, which is 43. Okay. And the next one, on the grid on page 5, draw a box plot to summarize this data. Okay, so box plot they have given on the other page. You know what I'll do? I'll bring it to this page. Okay. Okay, so I'll bring it over here so that I have everything in one page. Okay. Okay, so children, let's draw the box plot. So on the box plot, how do you draw it? Now you all should remember, children, these upper fence, lower fence, the boundaries we calculated. Do we mark these in our box plot?
Yes. Why the box is
The upper fence, lower fence are only used to identify outliers. They don't have any other purpose. You only mark it to you only use it to find your outliers. So then, wait, I'll show you. So then, children, the 43 is outlier. Outlier is marked by what? The outlier you mark with a cross on the diagram, right? So mark this 43. 41, 42, 43. So mark the X in the diagram in kind of like in the middle, 43. Okay, and then children, so what's the next, the whisker? The whisker starts from where, Buddha, here? It starts from, what's the next figure? After 43, what's the next figure? 53, the first one, the very first figure who is not an outlier. That's where you mark the whisker. So 53, so 50, 54, right? So 51, 52, 53, 54. So this is the whisker. Are you guys with me, children? Can you all talk with me? 54. And then after that, so this is where the whisker starts, and then you have to draw the line, and then the next line you draw is where? At Q1, right? So Q1 is how much? 60? 68. Q1 is 68. So draw another line at 68. 68 is over here, right? 68. And then the next one, Q2. Q2, we are telling about how much, children? Median is, Q2 is median. Median is 74, right? 71, 72, 73, 74. And then Q3 is 80. Okay, and then this is the box that Q1, Q2, Q3 combines to give the box, right? And this is the whisker. Can you see? And then that whisker continues until the end. What is the end figure here? 97. Okay, so not 98. You don't use the upper fence here. 98 value, that's not what you use. You use 97. The original values in your data set. Okay, these boundaries are only used for the purpose of identifying outlines. Okay, so 97 is over here, right? And then from there you finish it. So this is your box plot. Any questions about the box plot, children? Any questions that you want to ask about the box plot? Anything that you want to ask me? Please ask. Okay. Question number 3. The weights of packages that arrive at a factory are normally distributed with a mean of 18 kilogram and a standard deviation of 5.4 kilogram. So what do you have here? So let's introduce our variable. The weights of a package, right? So weight of a package, W is the weight of a package. And how is it distributed? Weight of a package is distributed normally with a mean of 18 and a standard deviation. Normally you remember in mu, and what's the other variable you use here? Do you use the sigma or the sigma square here?
Sigma square.
Sigma square. You have used not the standard deviation but the variance. So standard deviation is 5.4, which means variance is how much? 5.4 what? Variance should be 5.4 square. Just 5.4 square. Don't need to put the value, just write 5.4 square. So in your head, you should be like, okay, standard deviation is 5.4, variance is 5.4 square. When you're writing the normal distribution, this is always mu, mean, and this is variance when you're writing it here. Okay. So find the probability that a randomly selected package weighs less than 10 kilograms. So what do you do here? In part A, probability that the weight is less than 10 kilograms. So this is quite simple, children. Let's do it. Turn it to standard normal. W becomes C. What do you do here? From 10, you have to subtract the mean and divide by what? You have to subtract the mean and you have to divide by the standard deviation, right? That's the rule to convert. The rule to convert a normal distribution to standard normal. You subtract by the mean and divide by the sigma. Are you with me? How much is that value? 10 minus 18 divided by 5.4. Can I know the figure here?
Minus 1.48.
Yeah, minus
It's not
4.
exact.
Yeah.
fraction.
minus 1, yeah, will 1 minus 40 over 27, get the fractional value because you have taken from the table. How much is it?
Yeah.
Minus 1.48.
481.
0.14. So we'll take it to 2 dB
Yeah.
because our table has only 2 dBs, right? Okay.
Okay.
So actually, the answers in the table can be simulated from the calculator. You all know that, right? The same answers in the table you can get from the calc. Just make sure if you are giving to the calc, give the same decimals as the table. The table has your the z values to 2 dBs. Okay, the first table. There are two tables for normal distribution. Okay, so when you are using this to get the listener probability, you can use the calculator to get the same answer as the table. So it won't make a difference. So you go to mode, you go to number 3 stack mode, and you don't select any option here, right? Don't select any option, press the AC button, and then what do? You press shift, and you go to stack mode, number 1, shift start. Okay, do you remember this? And then which option do you choose? You have to go for number 5 distribution. Number 5 distribution and go to number 1. In number 1, P, it gives the probabilities for behind area, behind your line. So number 1, P, and what's your Z value? Minus 1.48. So this is the answer, 0.0694. You will get this exact answer. Now your book has 4 dp, so you also can give your answer to 4 dp, and it will look exactly as the answer in the book. So 0.0694. Are you with me? So if you were doing it from the book, I mean, you would draw it like standard normal distribution mean is 0. Z value is minus 1.4. It means it's over here. Ne? Minus 1.48. Z is less than means you have to get the behind area. Are you with me? Are you with me? And then do you remember in your table you don't have negative figures? If you are using the table, I'm saying if you are using the table without the calc, you don't have negative figures. What do you do then? You use the symmetric property.
Greater than.
You use a
Plus
symmetric property, and then you take the same area from the other side. Plus 1.4, you can get the same red color area by this green color area. So what you do is in the table, you check for 1.48. The table gives the probability behind this. Then that area you have to subtract from 1. So shall I show it from the table also?
Oh,
How much
we
is
can
the
do
value
that.
in the table? Okay, the normal distribution rate. Distribution. Yeah, I have the 1.48. See? Yeah. Check this table, children. 1.48. Do you see? This is the table you have in your formula sheet. Can you see? So 1.48. Z value is given in the first column. Probability value is given in the second column. 1.48. What's the figure? Can you see? 1.48 is over here, right? At the bottom, can you see? Can
Yeah,
you see
0.9306.
Okay, so 1.48, the value is over here. Can you see the probability value? So remember, this table gives you the area behind the line. 0.9306. Are you guys with me? So the probability is 0.9306. So that is the area behind that line. Okay, so this area is 0.9306. Okay.
Yes.
So then to get the green color area, what should you do?
1 minus that.
0.9306. Just check whether you get the same answer in the cal or not.
0.06.
Same answer, yes.
Same answer, 0.9306. So you can get the exact same answer. Okay, just make sure in the calculator when you are giving, you give to 2 dB. Okay, are you all okay with that? Okay, so next one. So you don't have to do all of this, no? Just one is enough. This is why I erased all of that. Okay, part B, the heaviest 15% of packages. Okay, so now you have to think about the normal distribution. They are talking about the heaviest 15% packages are moved around the factory by Jemima using a forklift truck. Find the weight in kilogram of the lightest of these packages that Jemima will move. Okay, so what are they saying in part B? Now you have a normal distribution, right? You know your weights are distributed normally, right? Weights are distributed normally means you have this bell-shaped graph. Are you with me? Okay. So what's the mean of the weights of the packages? The mean weight of the packages is how much? 18. I'm drawing
18.
the original normal distribution, not the standard normal. You can see here I'm using 18. So you know either side of the normal distribution, you have 50%, 50% area, right? Area. So now they are talking about the heaviest packages. Where do you think the heaviest packages are? Is it at the left corner or is it at the right corner? The heaviest packages.
Right one.
In the right, because you can see the axis values are getting bigger to the right. Okay, so obviously I mean, you know, 50% of area here, 50% of area there. The heaviest 15% is at this other tail end, the area is 15%. Do you understand? So this area is 15%. So this is where you have the heaviest packages. So they are asking in that category, in that heaviest 15% package category, what is the weight of the lightest of that package, of those packages? So out of this section, out of these 15%, now you know here also when you go towards the corner, the weight gets higher. Okay, so you go to this side, the weight gets even higher, higher, higher. So then out of this 15%, what's the lowest weight you have? So the one that is exactly over here, this M, right? This is the lowest weight in that category. So you are supposed to find the value of M. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So then let's write the equation. How do you write the equation? Let's write probability that the weight is what? More than the weights are exceeding M. M value is what I want to find. So what's the probability that your weights are exceeding M? What's the probability?
0.15.
0.15, right? The probability that your weights are exceeding this mass is 0.15, right? Can you all see? Okay, so now what we do is, let's turn this to standard normal. How do you turn to standard normal? W becomes Z. What do you do to this guy? Always you have
M
to
minus
M minus, you have to subtract from the mean, which is 18 and divide by sigma. Who is sigma?
5.4.
5.4. Sigma is 5.4. Sigma square, it's not sigma square, it's sigma 5.4. So this is equal to 0.15. So for this guy, you can, so this is actually, you know, we kind of pretty much practiced this exercise in when we were doing normal distribution, okay? So M minus 18 over 5.4, let me use it as a letter simple p. Okay, so I'm using letter p as M minus 18 over 5.4. So let's draw the normal distribution. So where do you think this P is located, first of all? When you have to get the reverse, when you are doing this in the reverse way, I think I have told you, you have to check the probability figures and you have to check the value, I mean, whether it's greater than or lesser than P. So they say here Z is greater than P. So first of all, I want you to tell me whether this P value, whether now this is the standard normal, so here the mean is 0. So I want you to tell me whether this P figure, is it a positive figure or is it a negative figure? Whether the P comes to the right of 0 or whether P comes to the left. Which one is correct? Now you have to think Z is greater than P, right? Z is greater than P means you shade the area behind P or after P? After P.
So it's positive.
The P should be 0.15. So which P value is, should I take P to the behind P? So greater than P, right? So greater than means I'm shading this front area, right? Can this front area be a 0.15? Can this area be a 0.15? No, right? It's bigger than half. It's more than half. It's exceeding 0.5 because you know half area is definitely exceeding 0.5. So that P value is wrong. So then you realize this P, that's not where P is. P is not in the negative side. So here we definitely have what P? We have a positive P. Are you guys with me? So this is the P value and your area here is 0.15. Actually, it's a copy of this diagram. Actually, the 18 becomes 0, M becomes P. That's what happens here. Okay, so now which table do we use, children? You all know we have two tables in our normal distributions. Okay, and when you get these kind of good areas, can you see 0.15 probabilities with only maybe 2 decimals? Okay, so you have two probability tables. You all know that. The first probability table, you can see your probability values are actually very kind of like messy probability values. Can you remember? I have taught you this. These probability values are very messy. But then the second table, you have another table, right? So the second table gives actually good probability values. And the second table actually gives you the area, I mean, it gives you the area in front, right? The first table gives you the area behind. The second table gives you the area in front of the P value. Okay, so what's the value here? So I want my probability value is the first value, P is the probability, okay? So what's the probability value? We have 0.15 is the probability. Can you see? For 0.15 probability, what's the Z value? 1.0364. So 1.0364 is what? The value of our, yeah. So the value of our P, okay. So let me clear everything. 1.0364. So this P value. Okay, I should have used another letter, right? Shall I use another letter? Because otherwise P in there and P here will might confuse. I'll use Q or something. So Q was how much? 1.0364. Q is 1.0364. Who is Q now? We used Q instead of M minus 18.
M minus 18 over 5.4.
5.4. Can I know the value of M, children? 1.0364 multiplied by 5.4 plus
23 point
59.
how much?
23.6.
23 point, can I have the full figure? 23.59
656.
6556. Okay, so that means M is
No, 656.
65.
yeah 656.
So that is 23.6 kilograms. So this is the lightest package in that heaviest category. In the heaviest 15% weight, 23.6 is the lightest in that category. Okay. So shall we move on? If anyone has a question, please ask. Okay. So the next one. One of the packages not moved by Jemima. Okay, what are the packages not moved by Jemima? Not moved by J. Now J is moving what packages? The 15%, the heaviest 15%, the one that I have shared here. So that means one of the packages not moved by her means it's in the remaining 85%. Okay, so one of the packages not moved by J is selected at random. Find the probability that it weighs more than 18. Okay, so what's the probability that it weighs more than 18 first of all? Now, actually you need to realize two things here, children. I don't know whether you guys are seeing this. One of the packages not moved by Genium means they tell you very clearly to take which area. Take the area behind, right? The 85%. So you have to work with the 85% area. You can't work with the full probability. You can't work with the full normal distribution. You are only allowed to use the 85%. So out of that 85%, okay, so probability means now you have to get the probability not out of 1. The probability is now out of 85%. So out of that 85%, do you get it? Out of the 85% area that is available to you, what is the area? What is the what is the probability that the package is more than 18 kilograms? So what's the probability it is more than 18 kilograms? So I think you can see 18 is the mean, right? So more than 18 means I think you can see you want this area, right? So how much is that area? Now how much is this area?
0.85 minus 0.5.
Yeah, so either you can do 50%, subtract 15% because you know this is 50%. From 50%, half of the area, you can subtract the 15%. Or as you said, Aditya, we can do 85%, we subtract 50%. From 85 also, you can subtract 15. Anything is correct. Anything is correct. Okay, what is the answer here? What is this area? How much did you say? 35, right?
Yeah,
35, right? So this is 35%, this area. So that is it, 35% out of 85%. And that's it. It's actually that simple. How many marks have they given? They have given 4 marks, right? You know what? Shall we write it a little bit? I mean, this is the answer because they have simply because they have given 4 marks. Shall we write a little bit? Okay, that's all that you need, the understanding. So actually, this is what we call as a conditional probability. Do you see it's a conditional probability because you have to take only that 85% area. So then you have to find the probability that the mass is, your weight is more than 18, given that the weight is what? The weight is lower than that M value, that 23.6. Okay, I'm writing this, I mean, this looks complicated, but the explanation is actually very simple. Okay, because you have to, given that area is the 85%, which is the area behind M. Out of that, given that area, you have to take the area more than 18. Okay, so you just write this, and because they give you 4 marks, you better show some kind of work. Okay, because it's 4 marks and they might give a mark for the method. So you can write here W greater than 18 intersection W less than 23.6. Okay, just write like this and then W lesser than 23.6. Otherwise, for the 4 marks, it's gonna be a issue. So in between these two, the area is 35%. Below 23.6 area is 85%. Are you guys with me?
Then teacher, the question number should be C, right?
Question number should be C. Sorry. Question number should be C. Yes. How much is the answer? 35 over 85?
7 over 17. So it's 0.4118.
0.41. So something like 412 then.
Yeah.
Is that okay, children? Do you understand? This writing thing, did you get this conditional probability? The given that should be the one that they gave you. So that comes at the back, where the 85% part. So that is the 85% part is less than n. And then you have the finding probabilities for more than n. That you should write at the front. Understood? Because it's 4 marks. Like you need to show some kind of working relevant for 4 marks because they might give 1 mark for this. Okay, and for the method. And then if the method is not there, you might, yeah. Okay, then part D. Last one, children. Part D. A delivery package of 4 items. A delivery of 4 packages is made to the factory. The weights of the packages are independent. Find the probability that 2 of them will be moved by J. Okay, so there are 4 packages. Out of the 4 children, 2 are moved by J. So if 2 are moved by J, what's the requirement to be moved by J? It should be in the 15%. It should be in the top 15%, right? So that means 2 are moved by J, they are in the top 15%. The other 2 are in the 85%. So 2 are in the top 2%, that is the 15%. The other 2 are in the 85%. So you can write, how do we let's say? So you just have to write all the paths, children. So let's say weighing more than, let's say I'll say, how do we say here? I'll just use the letter A. So letter A means it's weighing more than, it's in the top 15%. Okay, A means weight in top 15%. Okay. So then I am having 4 packages. Out of 4, 2 in top 15%. The other one is, I'll write A bar, right? A dash or something. A dash means it's in the 85%. Okay, A dash means it's the 85%. It's in the 85%. So that is actually the probability. Are you guys with me, children? Do you know what I'm talking about? Children, talk with me. There are 4 packages. Please talk with me. So out of the 4 packages, so we'll write in the order. You have to write all the possible paths. Okay, then you have to write all the possible paths. So 2 are in the top 50, another 2 are not in the top 50. So what do you have to do, children, now? You have to write all the possible arrangements. You have to write all the possible arrangements. How many ways can we arrange this? How many ways can we arrange? Children, how many ways?
Is it 6 ways?
6 ways. Yes, there are 6 ways. Let's show. So first what you do is you better keep the A in front. Keep A in front and arrange. So A dash, A. A dash, A dash. Okay, so I move this A to the middle. The next thing I can do is I keep the A in front. I'm not moving the front person. Next person I keep A dash, then A. Can you see? So while keeping A in front, is there any other way to change these 3 guys? Is there any other way to change these 3? No, right? So now the next thing you could do is keep A dash in front. Keep A dash in front now, and now write the other 3. Who are the other 3? A dash, A and A. So don't change the A dash in front. Don't change this guy. Try to change these 3. Okay, in that case, when you go in that kind of an order, you write everyone. So A dash, then when you have A dash, A. Then what's the last part? When you keep A dash in front, tell me the last part. A dash,
A and A dash.
A and A dash. Now, do you have to find the probability of each part manually? No, you know each part has a
All are same.
Find the probability of one part, and how many are there? Multiply by
6.
6. The reason I wrote this is to see how many parts are there. There are 6 parts. 6 paths are there. Get the probability of one path multiplied by 6. Okay, probability of A is 15%. 15% multiplied by 15%. Then 85% times 85% times whole thing by 6. Actually, you could write 15% square, 18%, 85% square into 6. How much is it? How much is it, children? 0.
0.0975375.
Yeah.
Something like 0.0975. Okay, children. So I hope this is clear for you guys. Okay, question number 4. A spinner can land on the numbers 10, 12, 14, and 16 only. Okay, so there's a spinner and there are only 4 possibilities. What are the 4 possibilities? You may get only 10, 12, 14, and 16. And the probability of the spinner landing on each number is the probability of landing on the
Same.
is the same, which means what?
Yeah.
It's a fair spinner and each one has a probability of how much?
1 over 4, right?
4. So 1 over 4,
Yeah.
right? Because there are only 4 sides. So each side has a probability of 1 over 4. Okay. So the random variable x represents the number that the spinner lands on when it is spun once. State the name of the probability distribution of x. So what's the special name that we give here? When the probabilities are all equal.
Uniform.
Uniform is the exact word, and then if you can add one more word to that.
Discrete.
Discrete uniform. Why? Because here you have discrete distributions.
Yeah.
Why? You have like values 10, 12. These are all separate discrete values and discrete uniform. So write the children.
Yeah.
Discrete uniform. Uniform means why? Because all the outcomes, I mean everyone has an equal chance. Discrete uniform distribution. Part B. State the value of Ex. I think before the value of Ex, shall we make the table, right? So X values are, how much is it? 10, 12,
12, 14, 16.
14, 16. Then probability of X is 1 over
1 over 4.
1 over 4, 1 over 4, and 1 over 4. So Ex, actually they have only given you 1 mark. You see, you don't have to do any of, you don't have to go, I mean, drawing the table is fine to give you an idea. But since it's a discrete uniform, children, now here, don't go to use EXs. I think there was a formula in the book for EX and YX, n plus 1 over 2 or something. So you can't use that when you have figures like 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, you can use it when you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so when you have figures like this, Pata, and the probabilities are equal, the mean, mean is actually like the, in this situation, it's actually like the middle value. Like, so what's the middle of 10, 12, 14, 16? If you go in order, because, or else you could just, multiply and take Ex, or else you can use a symmetric property. 10, 12, what's the middle? I think 10, 12, 14, 16. So you have to get the middle value here. Okay, so what's the middle value? You can use a symmetry. 12 and 14, the middle value is 13, right? You could do that. Or else you can do like this: 10 into 1 over 4, 12 into 1 over 4, 14 into 1 over 4. That's what we normally do.
Or you can put
Yeah.
10 plus 12 plus 14 into 1 over 4.
Yeah. Okay. The thing is here, it's actually symmetric. Can you see 10, 10 12, you jump by 2 and go, and everything is in order, right? So you see these values are given in order. 10, 12, 14, 16 are given in order. Okay, and then mean, you are getting a mean value here. Right? So mean value, since the probabilities are equally there for everyone, these values, I mean, you don't need to consider these values also. Then these values should be considered if your probabilities are different. So if the probabilities are equal, these become redundant. All you have to do is to get the mean, get these guys 10, 12, 14, 16, everyone goes perfectly, keeping a gap of 2. So get the middle of 10, 12, 14, 16 is going to be in the middle of 12 and 14, which is 13. So you could write that answer 13 just like that, because can you see how many marks they have given?
1.
They have only given 1 mark. So when it's 1 mark, it should be very obvious and very straightforward. You don't have to do a calculation at some time. Okay, so you can directly write by symmetry Ex is 30. No, else you can do like this, it's fine. Okay, so Roman number 2, variance X, children. So how much is the variance X? How do you get the variance X? You have to calculate what? Variance X is the
EX
formula.
square.
Yeah, Ex square. Ex square minus Ex whole thing square. So I think mean we know Ex square should be found, children. Find it. So Ex square is you have to multiply, right? 10 square into 1/4, right? You multiply the X square with the respective probability. Do you guys agree with me? 12 square into 1/4. 14 square into 1/4 plus 16 square into 1/4. Can I know the answer to that? What's the Ex square answer?
174.
174, exactly. Right, then let's get the variance X to that. Variance X is Ex square is 174 minus the mean Ex.
13 squared,
You have to square
169 then.
it. How much is it then? 174 minus 169.
5.
So variance X is 5. Understood? And then the next one. So next one, yeah, part C. Okay, so this is the first spinner. Remember now the first spinner, we had the numbers 10, 12, 14, 16, and it is a, what do you call, it's a fair spinner. It's a fair spinner because everyone has the same chance of occurring, okay? Okay, now we are going to go the game. The game happens when we are now talking about the second spinner. Okay, so look, a second spinner can land on the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is another spinner, and the numbers are totally different. Can you see? Numbers marked on it are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only. The random variable y represents the number that the spinner lands on when it is spun. The probability distribution of y is given. Can you see? When you look at the probability distribution, do you see is this a uniform distribution? No, you can see different people have different probabilities of occurring, right? Okay, so find EY. Obviously, what you have to do? You have to multiply the y value with the probability value and get it, right? So let's do that. Part C. Roman number 1. Find EY. Multiply the y value with the probability. Quickly do it. 2 times 9/30. 1 times 4/30 plus 2 times 9/30 plus 3 times 6/30 plus 4 times 5/30 plus 5 times 6/30. How much is it, children?
I got 3.
3, exactly 3.
Yeah, 3.
3.
Yes.
Then Roman number 2, children, variance y. Again the same story, right? To get variance y, can we immediately get variance y? No, you have to get E y square. So E y square is square value of y. 1 square into 4/30. 2 square into 9/30 plus 3 square into 6/30 plus 4 square into 5/30 plus 5 square into 6/30. Children, how much is it?
10.8.
10.8.
The others, okay?
Yeah.
10.8, and then get the, this is not what we want. We need to find what? Variance y. So variance y will be EY square minus EY whole thing square. So what is EY square? 10.8.
Minus
EY
9.
Minus
is
9.
3 square. Yeah. So 10.8 minus 9, which is 1.8.
1.8.
1.8. Okay. So this game was not that bad. Okay, not yet. I think we have a 5-mark question coming up. Okay, 5-mark question coming up soon. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think they are combining the spinners. No, let's see. The random variable W. So that's a new guy. We were talking about spinner X. We were talking about spinner Y. Now we are talking about a new variable called W. When you look at W, who is it? The random variable W equal AX plus B, where A and B are constant and A is greater than 0. Given that expectation of W equal expectation of Y and variance of W equal variance of Y, find the value of A and B. This is actually not that much of a bad game. The simplification it might only be the difficult thing here. So W equal AX plus B. Now children, I think they are saying expectation W equal expectation Y. Now do we know expectation Y? Expectation Y? We know it. We found expectation of Y in C part 1. Okay, and variance of Y also we have found. So now
Yeah.
you have to get the expectation of W and variance W. So do you remember how to get the expected value like this? When you have a variable like this, W equal AX plus B, to get the expectation value, what you have to simply put E, right? Take the expected value of the whole thing. EW equal expectation of the whole thing. Take the expected value of both the sides. W equal AX plus B. So for both sides, you take expectation W equal expectation of AX plus B. Then do you remember that we learned in that lesson, the discrete lesson, how to take the values out of the bracket in expectation. So when there is a multiplication, expectation of AX, what happens to the A? Do you remember the rule? When you have EAX plus B, you can take the A out. A times EX plus B, you can take it out like this. This is the theory in your S1 book. This is a theory for expectation and for variance. You are learning the theory. You have been taught the theory. So please look at that. So what do you get here, children? EW equal A times EX plus B. Do we know the EX value? Do we know the EX value? Yes, we found it, right? EX value we found in part A, right? How much? 13, right? 13, right? Are you guys okay with this? So I get 13A
Yes.
plus B. Expectation of W is 13A plus B. Okay, children? Similarly, what you have to do, children, again? EW value I found. Also get what? Variance W. Are you guys with me? So W equal A plus B. Get the variance with this. How do you get the variance W? Take the variance of both the sides. So what happens? Variance of both the sides. Can you all remember how to open a variance when there is a multiplication and when there is addition? There's a very special way to open it.
A square EX.
When you have a multiplication with x, it comes out as a square. These are theories. Once again, I'm telling you, these are theories. A square yx in the discrete distribution lesson, it's a theory. So when you have multiplication with x, that constant gets squared when it comes out. A square yx, and what happens to the plus b? Do we write the plus b?
No.
No.
Plus b is not coming. Plus minus doesn't come. Plus minus is completely removed. Okay. So variance W equal A square yx. What is the variance x value? We found it, right?
It's 5.
5. See, we got a value 5 then. So A square times 5. So actually it's quite easy now. Now all you have to do is what? Equate these to the respective persons. So they say EW is equal to EY, right? Do you see they say EW equals EY?
Yes.
So now get the value. EW answer we found, right? How much is it? EW is 13A plus B. EY is found above, right? EY we found as
It's 3.
3. See, in C part 1, EY is 3 Buddha. So actually we are going to build a pair of simultaneous equations. So this is equation number 1. The other one is variance W equals variance Y, right? See, this one variance W equal variance Y. Do you see? So variance W A square times 5 equal variance Y. What is the variance Y answer? In Roman number 2. Variance Y is, can you see children, 1.8, right?
1.8. Yes.
1.8. And then you can get the A value by solving this equation. Put the A value here and you can get the value of B. So this game was not actually that bad. As long as you remember how to open the expectation and the variance. If you know how to open these brackets, if you remember the theories, it's not one where you have to think a lot. You really don't have to think a lot. How much is A? Did you square or did? How much? 3 over 5, which means 0.6.
0.6. Yes.
So A value is 0.6. Then substitute that and get the B value. 13A plus B equal 3. 3 minus 30 times 0.6. How much is B?
Minus 4.8.
Minus 4.8. So B value is minus 4.8, A and B. Okay. And then last part, so 5 marks are done, children. Okay, next one. Each of the two spinners is spun once. Find the probability W equals Y. Find the probability that W is equal to Y. Okay, so I think first of all, children, okay, 2 marks here. We know the Y values, right? We know the Y values. What are the Y values? The Y table is given, the Y spinner is given, right? So what are the Y values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Okay, what are the W values? Do we know the W values? What do we know about W? We know that W equals to what? AX plus B. They have told us that W is AX plus B, right? Can you all get me the W values? So A value is found today. What was the A value?
0.6.
0.66. B value is negative 4.8, right? So get the X table and get the Y table and get the W table. So X value is how much? The X values are given, right? What are the X values we have? 10, 12, 14, 16. These are the X values, right? The X values are 10, 12, 14, 16. So for 10, 12, 14, 16, can you calculate me the W values? When X
For
is
10, it's 1.2.
1.2, okay. Just substitute 0.6 into 10, or else all you have to do is just take the cal here. And you type the whole thing in the cal. 0.6 with the alpha, you can give X in 0.66 minus
2.4.
4.8. Can you see? And then
Yes.
give cal. And X is 10. So this is 1.2, that's correct. Again, the other one for the when X is 12. That is
3.6.
2.
That's 2.4. Then 3.6.
2.4. Then next one 3.6. The next one.
I think you should add 1.2. That's how it goes.
You should add 1.2. Yeah. The other one is
4.8.
okay. So what do you see here, children? Now you are spinning the two spinners. The W value. So you are comparing the W value and the Y value. The W values are 1.2, 2.4, 3.6, and 4.8. And then your Y values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So are they becoming equal? W value and Y value, do we have a case where W becomes equal to Y? W values are 1.2, 2.4, 3.6, 4.8. Non-integer values. While this guy is all integers, whole numbers. So you can show the values of W. Okay. So they are not equal. Ne? So it's not equal, not equal. W values are not equal to Y values. So probability of W equal Y becomes how much? 0.
0.
The probability of W equal Y becomes 0 because that doesn't happen. Okay, question number 5. A company director wants to introduce a performance-related pay structure for her managers. A random sample of 15 managers is taken and the annual salary Y in £1,000 was recorded for each manager. So kind of like you have done a what? Coding here, right? Because you are recording is in thousands. The director then calculated a performance score X for each of these managers. The results are shown on the scatter diagram in figure 1 on the next page. Okay, so there's a scatter diagram also. Describe the correlation between the performance score and the annual salary. Okay. You have to describe the correlation between the performance score and the annual salary. First of all, we'll read the question. Again, the company director wants to introduce a performance-related pay structure for her managers. Okay. Related to the performance. So that means she wants to see the performance and then give the payment, the payment. So a random sample of 15 managers is taken. And the annual salary Y in £1,000 was recorded for each manager. Okay. The director then calculated a performance score X for each of these managers. That means the director is seeing how they perform. So there is another thing called performance index and the another one is a salary. The results are shown on the scatter diagram. Okay, so X is the performance and Y is the salary. Can you see? X is the way they perform, the performance score. So performance score is higher performance score is that person is performing the work very well. A lower performance score is the performance is lower. Okay, and this is the salary. So now look at this scatter plot. What do you see? When the salary is increased, the performance score is higher. Okay, so salary or else, so you can see the higher the performance score, the higher the salary. So kind of like you roughly see a pattern like that, right? Is that okay, children? Okay, so write that answer. So just 1 mark, you just have to write that. So you can write the salary increases as the performance increases. Okay, so that's roughly the idea that we can see. Do you agree, children? So B part 1, the results are also summarized. Sigma x, they have given you the summary statistics. Show that Sxy. Okay, what is the equation for Sxy? So again, it's things that you need to remember. Sigma Sxy is sigma
XY.
minus
Sigma x, sigma
y
y.
over n. You need to remember this.
Yeah.
So sigma xy is given. Sigma xy is given 19,428 minus sigma x is 465. Minus sigma y is 562 divided by n is children how much? How many people are we taking here? There were 15 people, right? We took 15 people and assessed their performance. So type everything in the cal and you should definitely get 2006. Are you getting exactly 2006? Are you getting exactly 2006 or what?
Yeah, exactly 2006. Yes.
Okay, so 65 into 562 divided by 15. Yeah, exactly 2006 counts. Exactly. Which is the Cholet. So to get the answer for the Cholet, even though it's 1 mark, you need to show all these substitutions. Okay, working otherwise you will not get the mark. So Roman number 2 SYY. So formula for SYY is sigma y square minus sigma y whole thing square over n. Agreed? Agreed, right? So this is the formula. So sigma y is 562 minus sigma y square. Sorry. Sigma y square is
23,140.
Check the question. Sigma y is 562, which should be square, divided by n is 15. Remember, the square is coming only for the top person, the n doesn't get the square. Okay. So 23,140 minus 562 square divided by 15. How much is it, children?
2083.73.
Send the answers on the chat also to 2083 point. You said
733. It's recurring.
7333.
Yeah, there's fraction if you want.
Fraction. Okay. Wait, we'll write the fraction answer first. What was the fraction answer you said? 31.
Yeah, 31,000
56 over
divided by
15,
15.
which is 2000.
2083.733.
Okay, find Sxy. Okay, so that is the Sxy. Next one, part 3, find the product moment correlation coefficient between the performance. So R, basically the R value. Product moment correlation means the R value. So what's the R value? Sxy over square root
SYY and
SYY. Are you okay with that? Sxy value is 2006. Root Sxx is Sxx value is we didn't find it, but I think it's given in the question. Ne? Here, Sxx is given in the question 2,492. 2,492 times SYY. How much is SYY? We found that. That answer we found. So I can use the exact the big figure also. 31,256 over 15. How much is the R figure?
0.88.
880.
0.880.
03. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of like you can see your R value is kind of okay.
Close
so
to 1.
significance of the R value, right? It shows, it describes how well the two variables are related, right? R values range between where to where? Between -1 to +1. Do you remember the theory? R values vary between -1 to +1. A value close to +1 means It shows a positive correlation. Values, both values are increasing. A value close to -1 indicates a negative correlation. Still, it's a straight line, but one person increases, other one decreases. A value close to 0 means the two variables are not having any relation. They are not related. They are not related to each other. So that's what it means by R. Okay, so that's not what we need in part C. I think that's needed in part D. The director believes that there is a linear relationship between performance score and annual salary. Can you see? So the director believes that there is a relationship. There's a linear relationship. So remember, there's a linear relationship. State giving a reason whether or not these data are consistent with the director's belief. So the R value you found, is it consistent with what the director believes? Is there a linear relationship? Yes or no? A linear relationship means what? A linear relationship means there's a straight line. There's a straight line relationship. So is there a straight line relationship? Yes. Why? Because your R value is close to, the R value is close to 1. So you can say it is, you have to now give the, whether it's consistent or not. They ask, is the director's belief, what? State giving whether or not these data are consistent with the director's belief. So use the same word. Is it consistent or not? So right, the data is consistent with the director's belief. The data is consistent with the director's belief. Why? The data is consistent with the director's belief because
Dark moment correlation is
R is close,
close to 1.
or you can say, or there is a high positive, or there is a strong positive correlation, something like that. The data is, anyway, you have to say the data is consistent. That you have to say. The data is consistent with the director's belief. Why? Because R is close to 1. Or why? Because the data is strong, highly positive, strong positive correlation. Because there is a strong positive correlation. You can change this part. Because R is close to 1, you can change because there is a strong positive correlation. You can say like that. But you have to say the data is consistent or not. That part has to be mentioned. Otherwise, you won't get the mark. Okay. Okay. And then the next one. So state giving a reason. Okay, we gave the reason and we gave the whether it's consistent or not. Okay. Okay, next one, children. Part E. Calculate the equation of the regression line of y on x in the form y equal a plus bx. So you know how to get the regression line, right? How do you get the regression line? Children, y equal a plus bx. What are the equations for b? Y equal a plus bx. The way to get b is, children, tell me. B equal
Sx
Yeah,
y over Sx.
the way to get b is, yeah, sxy over
Sx x.
sxx. You have to remember these
Yep.
equations. Sxy over sxx. So sxy value was 2006. Agreed? Sxx value is 2492. How much is b?
0.8049.
Is it exact figure? No, right?
No, no.
What's the simplest fraction first? Tell me the simplest.
1003 or 1003 over 1246.
1246.
1246. Yeah,
That's
you
the
should just
simplest
half it.
fraction. Now give it to make it decimal because I want the full answer when I'm finding it. That's why. The decimal figure you said was 0.804975.
76.
0.804976. Okay, then get the a value. What's the equation for a? A equals to
Y bar
y bar
minus
minus
bx
bx bar. So y bar, how do you get your sigma y? You should divide by n to get the b. B value we found 1003. I prefer to use for B children the exact figure. Can you understand? Don't use the decimal figure. Use the exact figure. 1003 over 1246 for B. X bar is sigma x over n. That's the way we get the sigma y. Sigma x is given, right? Isn't it? Sigma y, sigma x is given. Sigma y is 562. Is that okay, children? Shall I take these values down over here? I'm bringing the values down here so that we can see it. Okay, so this is the information they had given us in the beginning. So I just brought it down here so that we can see it. Okay. So sigma y children, sigma y is 562, n is 15. You have remember n is 15. 1003 over 1246 into sigma x is 465 over n is again 15. Children, how much is the A figure?
12.5.
12.5.
12.5. 162 over 15 minus this is wrong. How much it is? 12.5. Exactly 12.5.
No, no fraction also.
Can I have the fraction answer first?
I don't get a fraction, teacher. Wait and see.
So you get 12.512, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
12.51241,306.
Okay, so then that answer you can say A is 12.5. Okay,
And no fraction.
so have they told to give to 1 dp only, or they have said give values of A and B to 3SF. So when you're writing your equation, give it to 3SF. So what's the equation then? Y equal A plus BX, right? So regression line y equal A plus BX, give the values of A and B to 3SF. They have told to give A, B to 3SF. Do you hear me? So B value
Yes.
of is how much? 0.805.
0.5. Yeah.
The equation y equal A is 12.5 plus B is 0.805 times x. So this is the equation of the regression line. Agreed? Okay.
Yeah.
So then let's move to the next part. That is part E. Okay. So that's next we go to part F. Given interpretation of the value of B. Given interpretation of the value of B, children, they are asking you to interpret the B value. B value is what here? B value is what here? Part F. The B value is the gradient, right? Do you remember I have given you a special way to interpret the gradient? Can you all remember, children? I have given you a special way to interpret the gradient. I have given you kind of like a version. Actually, when they are asked you to interpret the gradient, there's a way to say when x increases by 1 unit. Can you remember? I have said that when x increases by the the way to interpret these, we use the version. We use this version that I have given you, interpreting gradient. I have given this to you. Please check your notes. I mean, I gave it to you as a special topic, interpreting gradient. I gave this topic also. Okay, I know I gave the topic, interpreting gradient, and I gave, what is it? When x increases by 1 unit, y increases or decreases depending on the gradient sign. If your gradient is positive, y increases. If your gradient is negative, y decreases. Now, what kind of a gradient do we have? Positive gradient or negative gradient? In our equation, it's a positive gradient. So, in our case, so when x increases by 1, when x increases by 1 unit, y increases by the gradient. This is the note. Okay, this is not the, I mean, we shouldn't write like this. We have to, this is like the basic version. The basic version you have to, how do you say? You have to put values here. You have to use, say, who is x and y. Okay, so who is x and y? You need to mention. Okay, so basically here, what is your x here, children? The x is the performance score, right? X is the performance score. Am I correct? X is the performance score. Who is Y? Y is the annual salary. Are you okay with that? Okay, so X is the performance score, Y is the salary. So what happens? So when X increases by 1 unit, when? So how do you say here? When your performance score increases by 1 unit. Okay, so when the performance score increases by 1 unit, the salary increases by. So when performance score. So X means you have to use the proper word here, okay? So X means the performance score. When performance score increases by 1 unit, salary increases by the gradient. What's the gradient? Children, what's the gradient? 0.805. But is that the value that we write? Do you remember for Y the salary was given in
In
thousands?
thousands.
Salary was
805.
1,000, so you shouldn't write 0.805. It should be 0.805 times 1,000 because salary is given in thousands. So
Yeah,
the salary
805.
how much? 805.
5 times.
You should write 805 pounds. So when the performance score increases by 1, the salary increases by 805 pounds. So this is what you should, this is how you should write the answer. This is the way we interpret the gradient. You use this version here. You use this basic version here to interpret your gradient. Make sure you replace x and y appropriately, and y increasing, decreasing depends on whether your gradient is positive or negative. By the way, if your gradient was a negative 805 here, you should write y decreases by, huh? Okay. Okay, then the next one, children. Next one, plot your regression line on the scatter diagram in figure 1. Okay, shall we draw the regression line? So plot your regression line on the scatter diagram in figure 1. So what I'll do is I'll bring the figure 1 to this side. Okay. So let's get the okay, you're supposed to draw your graph here, right? Part G. Plot your regression line on the scatter diagram in figure 1. Okay, part G. So let's plot it, children. So it's a straight line, right? Your regression line is what? Y equal 12.5 plus 0.805x, right? So it's a straight line. So to sketch a straight line, all you need to do is kind of like get 2 or 3 coordinates. You just need to draw a straight line. So let's get it to the. So I think we can directly see the intercept. The intercept is how much? Y equal 12.5 plus 0.805. So intercept is straight line. What's the intercept? Y equal mx plus c, right? Y equal 12.5 plus 0.805. Intercept is directly 12.5, right? So great. So 12.5 we can mark here, right? So shall we take the graph? Let's take the graph. Part G. Y equal 12.5 plus 0.805x. So when x is 0, y is 12.5. That's the first coordinate. Agreed? When x is 0, y is 12.5. Mark that. X is 0, y, so 10, 11, 11, 12, 12.5 is in the middle of, you can mark it here, right? 12.5 because the graph is very clearly given. Each small square represents 1 unit, right? So 10 is here, 11, 12, 12.5 is in between 12 and 13. Can be marked? Do you agree? Okay, so this is 12.5 children. So let's get a few good coordinates. Let's get another good coordinate. Maybe when x is like how much? 10. So can you see? Use the values in the table. In the graph, they have given x value 10. When x is 10, how much is y? Get the y values, children. When x is 10, how much is y, children?
20.55.
55.
20.55.
Yep.
55. Okay, then let's get another one again when x is maybe 50. When x is 50, the last value, because to draw a straight line, I don't need a lot of points, right? Straight line is definitely going to go through everyone anyway.
52.75.
Yes.
75.
Yep.
Okay. The 12.5 is okay, that is solidly there here. 20.55 is going to be a challenge to mark, right? Isn't it? 10 and 20.55. So when x is 10, 20.55 is going to be in the middle of 20 and 21, right? So this is 20, 20.55 is a little bit difficult to mark. So anyway, something like this. So anyway, 2 points are enough because regardless, all the other points should come on top of this, right? Okay, children, so draw the line until the end. Can you see? Automatically, anyway, the other points should fall on this. Okay, so the other point 50 comma 52.75. So when x is 50, do we get 52.75? Something close to 53. 50 comma 52.75. I think we kind of get close to that, right? Let me make this 52.75, right? So 52.75. Okay, something like this. Okay, children, 52.75, almost close to 53. Okay, so I just marked it with like 3 coordinates and I was adjusting it, trying to adjust it with just 3 coordinates. With just 3 coordinates. That's what I was doing. Okay. Okay, children, I hope this is clear. So, and you can see the regression line is quite clearly going through all the, I mean, like it's going in the middle of all your points, right? That's how a regression line should go. It should go in the middle of the scatter diagram. Okay. So kind of like trying to balance out, it's trying to balance out all the points. And then the next one, children. So part G is done. Plot your regression line is done. The director hears that one of the managers in the sample seems to be underperforming. Okay, are you with me? The director hears that one of the managers in the sample seems to be underperforming. What do you mean by a person who is underperforming? Children, what do you mean by a person? Now here we have X, Y. X is the performance score. Y is the salary. So what do you mean by a person who underperforms with respect to the performance score and with respect to the salary?
Yes.
He has a low
Performance score is less.
performance score is low.
Annual salary is high.
Okay. Yeah. The director, one of the managers in the sample seems to be underperforming. So when you look at this scatter diagram, do you see the person who is underperforming here? When you look at this scatter diagram, who is it? Which point?
25.
The one, can you see that most of these points seem to go together in like together, but do you see this one point who doesn't agree with this line? No, his salary is high. He gets a now see the other managers here. Can you see the other manager also who gets the same salary as this person? So I'm talking about this person. Now this salary and this salary compare, they get the same salary. But can you see the performance of this guy is so much higher compared to this person? Now see these people all have the same salary. See 1, 2, 3. These people these people almost are in the same salary range. But these people are performing so much better in comparison to this person. Understood? So then who is the underperforming person? This guy. Okay. So this is the underperforming person because with respect to the other people who get the same salary, his performance is comparatively low. Okay. So then write the point. What's the point? That point name is how much? 25, 48. Ne? 25, 48. What do they want? They want us to circle. On the scatter diagram, circle the point that best identifies this manager. So circle it. So you have to circle it. Understood? Yes. So that point should be circled on your scatter plot. Okay? Sorry for moving this all over the place. Okay, next one. Part either the director decides to use a regression line for the new performance related pay structure. Estimate to 3 significant figures the new salary of a manager with a performance score of 30. So it's quite easy, right? So if your performance score is 30, how do you get the salary? So X is 30, right? So all you have to do is go to your regression line, replace X with, Y is the salary, X is the performance. So X is 30, right? So get the salary. 12.5 plus 0.805 times X is 30. How much is the salary, children? How much is the salary?
36.65.
36.65, exactly.
Yeah.
And then is this the salary? Actually, is this the salary?
No.
No.
1000.
Salary is
Into 1000.
into 1000. So salary is
36,500. 36,650.
36,000. 1, 2, 3, 36,650, right? 36,650. And do they say any significant figures in the question? Estimate to 3 significant figures. Estimate to 3 significant figures. So 3 significant figures. What's the salary? 36,000, the fourth figure is
600.
36,700. So
700.
36,700 pounds is the salary of a manager. Is salary, I mean, is the salary of a person who has a performance score of 30. Okay. So quite a large question. Okay, question number 6. A disc of radius 1 centimeter is rolled onto a horizontal grid of rectangles so that the disc is equally likely to land anywhere on the grid. Okay, read the question again. A disc of radius 1 centimeter is rolled onto a horizontal grid of rectangles. Okay, do you see what's happening? There's a grid with rectangles. And what are you doing? You're putting a disc onto that grid so that the disc is equally likely to land anywhere on the grid. Each rectangle is 5 centimeter long and 3 centimeter wide. So it's quite bigger than the disc, right? The rectangle is 5 by 3, while disc radius is 1, diameter is 2 then, right? So rectangle is definitely bigger than the main diameter, right? 3 by 5, okay. There are no gaps between the rectangles. So basically you have a grid. Shall I take a grid? Oh no, my grids are squares. Yeah, unfortunately. No, they say the grids are rectangles. So I will have to draw the rectangles here. Okay. So you have this a bit, just to give you an idea. Okay. Okay, so I'm making the grid bigger. Okay. Okay, so this is the the grid. Okay, I don't need to draw it bigger, just I'll draw, might be a big one. Okay, so 3 by 5, do you get it? So you have a grid like this. I don't know how many rectangles are there. Okay, so you have a grid like this. Okay, I'm just drawing to give you an idea what's happening here. Okay, the grid might be bigger. I'm not saying the grid has 9 rectangles. Okay, it might have 100 rectangles for all I know. Okay, so I'm just drawing this to show you that, okay, this is what the grid is. 3 by 5, each rectangle 3 by 5, there are no spaces. Okay, so the disc is actually quite small in comparison because radius is 2. So radius is 2. The not radius is 1, diameter is 2. Agreed. So the diameter is like this way too. So it can, the disc can completely fit inside the rectangle. Agreed? Okay. So now let's it's the understanding of the question that is important here. Okay, so then each rectangle is 5 centimeter long and 3 centimeter wide. There are no gaps between the rectangles and the grid is sufficiently large so that no discs roll off the grid. Now can you see? This grid is quite large. So now I have drawn a very small grid, but this grid is actually, extending. Huh? Understood? So I'm just drawing small, but this is not the size of it. It goes. Okay. Right. So if the disc lands inside a rectangle without covering any part of the edges of the rectangle, then a prize is won. Okay, so actually it's a game. Okay, so you are given the chance with the disc. You have to put the disc onto this board, and if the disc comes exactly onto a rectangle without touching any border, you win a prize. Understood? Okay. So by considering the possible positions for the center of the disc, okay, they are asking you to think about the center of the disc. So you take the disc and don't think about the whole thing. Think about the center of the disc. They are asking you, by considering the possible positions for the center of the disc, show that the probability of winning a prize on any particular roll is 1 over 5. Okay. Okay. So you have to think about the center of the disc. They are only asking you to think about the center of the disc. Show by considering the possible positions for the center of the disc. Okay, how do we do this? Okay, so obviously I'm going to take one rectangle. Okay, I'm going to take one rectangle and we need to think about how the center can form, how the center of the disc can form. Now, our disc has a radius of 1. Our disc has a radius of 1. So, okay, so if it falls exactly in the middle, okay, let's take exactly the middle of the rectangle. So if I take exactly middle of the rectangle, Okay. Now what I want to do is I can move my disc. It can go like over here, right? It can go. I mean, wait. So this is one. This is one. So children, it's like this. Now you know if it falls exactly in the middle, this is 3 neck. You are covering 2 centimeter, which means each side you have half a centimeter, right? Yeah. Right. I'm just saying there's a half centimeter on each side. So now from the center, if you consider the center of the disc, okay, now you know I'm just considering the center of the rectangle. I'm thinking the disc is exactly in the middle of the rectangle. Okay, and then you know I can tolerate to go until it touches over here, right? Then I'll draw it on the other one. So like this. This is also an acceptable position. So what is the center position? So this is radius is 1 centimeter. So actually here, okay, so I mean, how do I say this properly? Okay, so here you have 1 centimeter tolerance. Okay, here you have, I mean, it's like this. Shall I show you like this? Your center, if I say like this, can you understand? Your center can fall anywhere inside a rectangle, keeping how much? Keeping a gap of 1 centimeter from the corners. Do you get that? If the center, if the middle of your disc falls anywhere inside a small rectangle that has a width of 1 centimeter from the out edge rectangle. Do you agree that the disc will not cut the rectangle? So then these are the possible positions, right? For the center of the disc. Children, do you understand what I'm saying? I think what I was saying earlier did not make sense, but I think what I said now should make sense. Did it make sense? Now you know your radius is 1 centimeter, right? So if your disc falls to the very corner like a tangent, this is 1 centimeter. The center is 1 centimeter away from the corner. Do you agree? So then what I'm trying to say here is, if you consider the positions of the center, if it falls inside this rectangle, I'm drawing another rectangle inside this given grid. So inside this grid, I am drawing another rectangle. So in this rectangle, all these corners are 1 centimeter away. Do you agree? So then if the center of the disc fall anywhere inside this yellow color rectangle, it will not cut the borders. Do you agree? Children, can you all talk with me? Yeah. Yes. So then how much is, can you all tell me the length and width of this small rectangle? What's the length and width of the small rectangle? So this is on top here 1 centimeter, right? Down also.
Down is also 1.
Then this should be
1 centimeter.
1 centimeter. And then this one is also 1 centimeter here. This is also 1 centimeter. So since this is 5, how much is remaining in the middle?
3 centimeters.
3 centimeter. Can you all see? So the rectangle in the middle has a dimension of 1 by 3. Okay. So then you want to get the probability, right? The probability of winning on a roll. So to win, your center has to land in the yellow color region. But the total, I mean, what's the total area? The total area is the full rectangle. Out of the total area of a given rectangle, to win, you must be inside this yellow color rectangle. Understood? So part A, the probability to win equals, you have to get the total area is the area of the full rectangle, which is what? 3 by 5. Out of the 3 by 5 area, you need to fall inside that 1 by 3 area. Then only you win the center. So this is 3 over 15, which is 1 over 5, which is exactly the show that. Okay. So either you need to show it in your diagram or you have to mention it, because it's 3 marks. Okay, because they want the method and you need to say the method. So either your method should be shown by doing this 1 by 3, something like this, or you should say the center of the disc must be at least 1 centimeter from the side of the rectangle. Okay, or else you must show it like this. Some kind of a figure should be there, or some kind of a statement should be there. Okay, so then shall we go for part B? Anyone, is that okay? Anyone has any question about that? Dala, anyone has any question about that?
You can go.
Shall I go to part B? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, dear.
A group of 15 students each roll the disc onto the grid 20 times. Okay, wait. A group of 15 students each, that means one person each, rolls the disc onto the grid 20 times. So one person gets how many chances? 20 chances. And there are how many children? 15 children. So a group of 15 students each rolls on the disc onto the grid 20 times and record the number of times X that each student wins a prize. Okay, their results are summarized as follows. Okay, and records the number of times that the student wins the prize. The results are summarized as follows. Okay, sigma x. So, to all together, all the children, when you consider, they have won the prize. They have won prizes 61 times. The total prize 61 times. Okay, sigma x square 295. Find the standard deviation of the number of prizes won per student. So, children's standard deviation, when you have sigma x square, we have the formula, right? Standard deviation formula, can you all remember? Standard deviation formula, you have to remember is sigma x square over n, sigma x square over n minus sigma x over n, whole thing square root. Okay, so how much is the answer, children? Sigma x square, how much is sigma x square?
295.
5. Number of children, a group of 15 students.
15.
Minus sigma x square is 295 over n is 15 whole thing square and square root.
Here they are 61, right?
61, I'm sorry. They are 61. Here 61. I'm sorry. Sigma x is 61. Yeah, how much is it?
One 1.7688.
Yeah, you tell me the third answer. Yeah, that is the full value. Yeah, third answer
1.768866.
That's not a fraction, right? You can't make it a
No.
fraction, right? Okay, 1.1.1.768866. Okay. So end of the standard division 1 point, how many decimals do they want? We will give it to around 3 dB, 1.769. 1.769, okay? Okay, then the next one, part B is done, right? That's okay. Part C, a second group of 12 students. Okay, now there are two groups. First, we are considering the the children in the group of 15 students. That's the first group. The second group, there are 12 students. Each roll the disc onto the grid 20 times. Okay, and the mean number of prizes won per student is 3.5 with a standard deviation of 2. Find the mean and standard deviation of the number of prizes won per student for the whole group. Okay. So this is actually chapter 2, I think. Chapter 2 or 3, where you have two groups. When you have two groups, you need to combine the standard deviations and you have to combine the, what do you call it? Combine the standard deviation and you need to combine the means. I think combining means, okay. So let's do it in the normal way. They have given 7 marks for this, right? Can you see? So part C, right? Okay, let's consider group 1. Group 1, how many children are there? N is 15. Sigma x is the total number there, that is 61. Sigma x square is 295. Consider group 2. Group 2, how many children are there? 12 children.
12.
And they have given, so let's say group 2, it's y bar. Okay, so mean number, they have given not the sigma y, they have given y bar. Y bar is 3.5 and they have given standard deviation of y is 2. So they are asking you to find the mean and standard deviation for the entire group. Are you with me? Okay, so first what I'll do is without using y bar. How can we write y bar in the normal way? Y bar is sigma y over n, right? So y bar is 3.5. Sigma y is what I'm going to find. N is, there are 12 children. Do you agree? Can you tell me the sigma y here?
42.
42, 3.5 times 12, 42. Likewise, get the standard deviation equation. Also, standard deviation is, what is it? Sigma y square over n minus sigma y over n whole thing square, right? Root. Are you guys getting this? Because it's 7 marks. You have like, there's a lot to do here. Sigma y is how much? 2, right? Sigma, so this whole thing root, sigma y square is what I don't know. N is 12. Sigma y value we found to the 42 over n 12 whole thing square. So what's your task now? You need to make sigma y square the, you have to make the subject. To make sigma y square. I think the best thing to do is to remove the big root, right? Shall we remove the big root? Yeah, square. Yeah. So square and the root removes. This becomes 4 plus the minus 42 over 12 comes to the other side. And then sigma y square is 4 plus 42 over 12 square. This whole value you should multiply by 12. Do you agree with my working? Can you all understand? The root removes as a square. Then this side becomes free. When it becomes free, the negative 42 over 12 square can be brought as a positive 42 over 12 square. And then the 12, which is down as division, can now come up as division.
195.
How much sigma y?
195.
195.
95.
Okay, so now we have everything we need. So now what we need to do is we have to get the combine the whole group for that. So when you consider the whole group, let's take the whole group. So when you consider the whole group together, what is so let's say the whole group means we add the two values, right? So let's say the whole group is like some value like z. So what's the total number in the whole group? Group 1, group 2, add it together. How many?
27.
15 plus 12. How much?
27.
27. And then sigma z. Sigma z means you add the performance of the group 1 people, the number of prizes that the group 1 people won, plus the number of prizes that the group 2 people won. Okay, so add these two values. How much is it? 61 plus sigma y is 42. How much is it?
103.
103. And then sigma z square, that is you add the squares of the performance price number of prizes of group 1 plus the squares of the number of prizes of group 2.
490.
295 and
190. 490.
490.
90.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they want the mean and standard deviation for the whole group, right? Find the mean and standard deviation of the number of prizes won for the whole group. So mean of the whole group is what?
103 divided by 27.
103 divided by 27, which is
3.8.
it's a few more decimals. 3.8.
148.
148.
And have they asked us the number of decimals here? Any particular number of decimals? No, ne? Okay, so we can keep it like 2 dB or something. 3.81. And then standard deviation, children, for the whole group. Standard deviation of the whole group, sigma z square over n. You have to get the whole group. Okay. So whole group means you have to take the combined value, sigma c square, sigma c. So this is 490 over n is 27, right? Minus sigma z is how much? 103 over 27. Whole thing square root. How much is it, children?
1.896137.
613.
7.
7. So that means something like 1.896 means when you round off 1.90, right? The 6
Yes.
of 9 becomes 10 is 9. So 1.90. So that is the standard deviation and this is the mean for the whole group. Okay. Shall we try the other one quickly? Last part, right? The last part of this. 3 marks. the 27 students also recorded the number of times that they discovered a corner of a rectangle. Okay, so now we are going to consider about the covering the corners. Okay, the 27 students also recorded the number of times that they discovered a corner of a rectangle and estimate the probability to be 0.22164 dB. Explain how this probability could be used to find an estimate for the value of pi and state the value of your estimate. Okay. So what are we talking now here? We are talking about we are talking about the chance of what? The probability of what? The disk covering a
Corner.
okay, so we are talking about the discovering the corner. So now again think from the center. Think from the center of the take one rectangle. Okay, so once again you take into your consideration just one rectangle. Okay, take one rectangle into your consideration and think how it needs to how a circle will cover a corner. Okay, so you need this corner to be covered. Okay, children. So how can we cover the corner? Where should the center be? Now we have to again think where the center of the circle should be. Okay, the disc has the center. You have to think where this disc should land so that the corner is covered. Are you guys with me? So what I'll do is first I'll do the obvious one. That is, I'll keep the circle here. Okay, I'll keep the circle corner here. Okay, so then definitely the whole thing is covered. Or else actually now you know the radius is 1 centimeter. The radius is 1 centimeter. So if you think like this, wait, if I draw the earlier rectangle, that 1 centimeter inside rectangle we have now. If you fall 1 centimeter inside, you don't block anything, right? This one. But I think you can see from this point, okay, from this point onwards. Okay, so if I make this a little bit larger. Okay, now I am thinking about covering the corner. Now, you know, if your center falls like on top of here, it doesn't cover the corner. But what if your center, like, you know, think of it like this. So what if your, yeah, I think you have to think from here. Yeah, because if the center of the, I mean, you have to think about the curve also. No? So if the center of the disc is over here, this is okay. So actually, it's like this, children. It's like this. Or I think the easiest way to think is if you keep the center of the disc here, you can see that this area is covered, right? This 1 centimeter area. The radius is 1 centimeter for this entire part. So basically, it's like this. If the center of your disc falls anywhere within the radius of 1 centimeter, this will be covered because you know why? From here to here also distance is 1 throughout. Shall I make this diagram bigger? This is 1 centimeter, right? From anywhere on this diagram, all these distances are 1 centimeter, right?
Yes.
These are all 1, right? So if your center falls anywhere within this 1 centimeter radius of the corner, if the center of your disc falls anywhere within a 1 centimeter radius of the corner, do you see that the corner will be covered? Say your center falls in this yellow color region, so radius is 1 centimeter, it's more than this, it will cover the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, but if your center falls outside, if it falls like over here, will it cover the corner? Because here to here, it's more than 1. So it won't cover the corner. So you get what I'm trying to say you. So as long as your center is 1 centimeter, so we don't need the inside rectangle here. So all you need to think here is like this. From the considering the corner, to cover the corner, you need to have your, I mean, if you want the corner to be covered, the disc should fall within 1 centimeter radius of this corner. The 1 centimeter radius of the corner, the disc should fall. If your center fall, not the disc, the center of the disc. If the center of the disc falls anywhere within 1 centimeter of the vertex, of this vertex, it will cover the corner. It will cover this corner. So there are how many such corners? There are 4 corners in a rectangle. So as long as the center of the disc is going to fall within 1 centimeter of the corner, it will cover. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? The center of your disc should be 1 centimeter away from the, should be lesser than 1 centimeter away from the vertex. So 1 centimeter away from the vertex, I'm drawing an arc here. An arc who is 1 centimeter away from the vertex. So if your center falls anywhere within this region, it will cover the corner. Okay. So then how do you get the probability here? So get the area here. So what is the area of falling in? What is the probability of falling inside these 4 regions?
0.2216.
The total over this yellow color area. So total area we know it's 3 by 5. No. How much was it? 3 times 5. Ne? Total area is 3 by 5. So total area is 3 by 5. But you have to get the area of the 4 corners. So what is the area of the 4 corners?
Pi r squared.
So it's actually making a full circle. Quarter circles, there are 4 quarter circles. End of the day, it makes a full circle. Pi r square, radius of the circle is? Yeah, so how much is the radius? 1.
One.
So we are tolerating a length of 1 centimeter away from the center. So pi into 1, so pi. So then the area, the probability of what? The probability of covering the corner. So you have pi out of how much? The total area is 15, right? And then this answer is equal to what? They say the probability of covering a corner is given 0.2216. It's given in the question. So now you can get the value of pi. 0.2216 multiplied by 15. How much is it? 0.2216 multiplied by 15. Yeah, I have an answer on the chat. How much is it? 3.324. Exact. Or more decimal point? Exact. 3.324. So explain how this probability could be used. So the important thing here is that you identify the center must fall within 1 centimeter of the vertex, because radius of the disc is 1 centimeter. If it falls within 1 centimeter of the vertex, the corner will be covered, children. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope this is clear with you all. So that is the end of this paper.